Hey, look! The Wookie drives an electric car. But not just any car. It's Doug from Doug's Cars 2015 BMW i
Three.
Giga World. Yay, crossover episode.
Future! Future! Future!
The electric car. The future of transportation, whether you like it or not. We have come a long way from the lead acid kit cars of the past, and heck, a long way from GM EV1s and Ford Ranger EVs of the 1990s. While the 2000s saw the introduction of hybrids led by the Toyota Prius, the 2010s saw an influence of true battery electric vehicles. For better or worse, a little startup, Tesla, made electric cars cool, and all while legacy automakers slowly rolled out their first mass-market electric models. While companies like GM, Ford, and Toyota opted initially for plug-in hybrid models, which essentially used the gas engines as range extenders, some jumped headfirst into making true electric cars. BMW was one of those companies, and they did it with their futuristic and fantastically weird I sub-brand. You have to give BMW props for the outlandish styling of the I cars, but the outlandishness extends far beyond the concept car styling, and yes, I will use concept car styling a lot in this episode. This is the first mass production car, or non-supercar production car, to use a carbon fiber chassis. While before such construction was reserved for super expensive supercars and race cars, here's a funky little city car with a carbon tub. As you may know, batteries are freaking heavy. So BMW's solution was to lighten the entire construction of the iCars and using primarily carbon fiber reinforced plastic instead of steel or aluminum. The weight savings and eco-centric manufacturing goes beyond the chassis as well. The door panels are made from hemp. The dash on this Giga World edition uses open-pore eucalyptus wood, which looks amazing by the way. Models with the optional leather are tanned with olive leaf extract compared to traditional methods. And finally, much of the plastics and materials are all recycled on the interior. Overall, the i3 without the range extender weighs 2,635 pounds, and that's incredibly light for an electric car. Tesla is typically over 5,000 pounds for a comparison. Now, this particular i3 happens to be a BEV, battery electric vehicle. There is a range extended version called the REX, which adds a 647cc straight 2 gas generator, which doesn't quite double the total range of the i3. This BEV uses a 170 kilowatt electric motor that turns the rear wheels and uses one of 3 different battery packs in terms of range. This i3 has the bottom end of those, the 60 amp hour battery. This electric motor technology is known as Bmw E Drive, and this is where I trail off because I just feel like an idiot trying to describe this stuff. Electric cars are just cool. I'm sorry. I know that may sound sacrilegious to a car enthusiast, or to some car enthusiasts, but electric cars are doing some cool things right now, and you have to respect that. Electric cars, especially on the West Coast with their much more established fast charging network, are almost as usable as gas-powered cars. 300 miles of range is a perfectly fine range for most daily driving cases. Now, I'm a bit of an edge case where I've put 25,000 miles on my Malibu since purchase in a year, and mainly because I've driven to a lot of NASCAR events up and down the East Coast. But just as a daily with a 25-minute commute to the shop, an electric car will be fine. However, range anxiety is something manufacturers are still fighting, and it's because of early cars like this i3. As mentioned before, this is a base model BEV with a 60 amp hour battery, and it gets a grand total of 81 miles on a charge. Yeah, I know, city car, but this means this car isn't exactly usable outside of a city. The range extender model with the 120 amp hour battery gets you a grand total of 126 miles. That's better, but still my brief time with this car meant I was constantly staring at the range. Doug had about a 10-minute commute before COVID times, now he works mostly out of a home office, So as long as he remembered to plug it in the night before, he was fine. But if he wants to do any sort of driving outside of Richmond, he has to be very cognizant of the range. Keep in mind that the fast charger network on the East Coast absolutely sucks right now. He's had a horrible luck with fast chargers around Richmond just simply not working. On top of that, he had an incident where he had a lady park directly in front of him while he was trying to park at one, and she absolutely refused to move for him so he could charge his almost dead i3. Because she would rather really inconvenience him so she could do her whatever shopping she had to do at the mall than face a slight inconvenience and park just a little bit further away. So to avoid a lot of headaches, he just charges the i3 overnight in his garage and he only uses it for small commutes around town. But aside from the intense range anxiety, the rest of the driving experience was wonderful. I heard a lot about steering electric cars, namely Teslas being vague and video gamey, but the steering felt great on the i3. Of course, being a BMW helps on top of the incredibly skinny tires. The fronts are only about 6.1 inches wide, while the rears are 6.89 inches wide. They do this to help create less roll-in resistance to try to help with range, but in a modern car, they just look ridiculously skinny. These are something you would expect on an 80s Econobox, not a modern carbon fiber tub city electric car. Because these are so skinny and they have such little contact patch, they make the i3 surprisingly sporty, as the instant torque from the electric motor sends the rear tires into a frenzy. The skinny tires also fight for grip when you're in a corner, providing a gleeful amount of smiles. This is what slow car fast is all about. You feel like you're in a much faster car, just without being a much faster and more expensive sports or supercar. Continuing to the rest of the car, it's just a wonderfully quirky car. Just look at the concept car looks of this thing. It looks like you took a concept from the Geneva Auto Show onto the city streets. And the fact that this is available in the United States makes all the weird car aficionados like myself extremely happy. This particular color scheme with the white and black hood and highlights is affectionately known as a panda in the i3 circles. Pretty obviously why. The interior feels wonderfully futuristic with floating dash screens, a asymmetrical dash design, and the use of eucalyptus wood panel materials feels wonderfully modern. Most interior wood use is typically an old-fashioned affair like an old Rolls or Mercedes, but the eucalyptus here is giving me like an IKEA feel for some reason. I just love it. Of course, this isn't a traditional four-door hatch, it has clamshell rear suicide doors straight out of a Saturn Ion coupe. This is a beautifully quirky car. The i3, of course, has wonderfully wacky named trim packages to go along with all the wacky nature of the everything. The trims are known as worlds, and all three worlds have very different interior themes and unique wheels. Mega World is the base, the previously mentioned Giga World is mid, and Terra World is top of the line. The Giga has the wackiest of interior colors, however, as it has contrasted white and tan seats and interior colors. The Terra is kind of more boring as it has a traditional black interior. So yeah, I much prefer the wackiness of the Giga. But not all quirks are good. The frunk, yeah, that's not weatherproof. Water, mud, leaves, it just collects up in the front and you can't really use it as storage. I don't really know what you would put up here, as it's not really providing protection from anything. So, yeah, that makes it kind of useless as a front trunk. And not really a quirk, but these cars were not cheap. This i3 Giga World stickered at over $47,000 when it was new, which is kind of nuts when you take into the car as a whole. The range is pathetic, and it just seemed pricey for what's essentially a city car. Now, most of the price is due to the fact that BMW went all in on the carbon tub for a city car, but yeah, with the range that pathetic, it kind of defeats the purpose of a light carbon weight. Many much better car reviewers, mainly DeMuro, explain this better than me, but yeah, this car just feels like something 2/3 of the price of that. This doesn't feel like a $50,000 BMW. That's why the i3 was a sales flop. And the next BMW i cars are more traditional crossovers because, of course, we truly live in a dystopia hell. Well, that got kind of dark really quick. Anyways, yeah, this is a fellow YouTuber's car. Yep, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is Doug's from Doug's Cars i3. He got this on a CPO trade-in for around $16,000, which is an amazing deal for something that was almost $50,000 new. Keep in mind he got this in 2017. That's an insane depreciation in 2 years. 47,000 to 16,000. Now, he goes into better details in his videos of the car, but yeah, he backs up Doug DeMuro's claim that this was the worst new car deal at the time. However, mostly due to his purchasing experience, he proudly calls it the best used car deal, which, yeah, look at that depreciation. Now, he's had some issues with it, namely, recently the accessory battery dying and him having to replace it outside of warranty. And the left rear window, the very one you've probably noticed being taped up and have wondered why it's taped up, well, it got smashed last fall from a rock from the neighborhood's lawn care crew while mowing his lawn. Of course, he's gone into detail about it on his channel, but yeah, he's still waiting on getting it replaced. Getting the funky shaped window replaced has been a slow and tedious process in COVID times, and he's had to wait for one to get shipped from Germany so the dealership can replace it, and at the time of filming, they had it, he just hadn't had time yet to go into the dealership. And before you ask, no, aftermarket glass companies won't, because yeah, this is a funky shaped window from a car that sold in very poor numbers. But aside from the shenanigans, it served as his city daily for a couple of years, and since he's works from home mostly, it kind of sits as his second car in his growing fleet of hoopties. You'll see more of his cars on this channel later in the year. Anyways, this video has essentially been one long mess. Much like this car. The 2015 BMW i3 Giga World is an overpriced, overdesigned, incredibly short-ranged sales flop. But it's a wonderfully quirky city car that you can surprisingly get into at really decent used car rates. It's an amazingly quirky car, and I just love it. It's so weird. Yeah, I'm a weird car guy, and this thing just tickles all my weird car lovingness. If this thing got twice the range, I would much more enjoy driving this car. It just, man. Range anxiety does suck, and when your range is 80 miles, you focus very much on that anxiety. But yeah, if this thing had better range, this would be a much better car. But it's not, it's a BMW i3. This has been one long Wookie Drives, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. Huge shout out for Doug's Cars for letting me drive your BMW i3. I've linked his channel in the description, and Doug has been very supportive of me as of late, so please check out his content. He's been doing a lot of really cool stuff as of late. He's driven a lot of really cool cars, so give him a shout out. Check out his YouTube channel. Check out his Twitter. He's doing a lot of real cool stuff, and go support him. If you have a car or truck you'd like to see on the show and happen to be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, feel free to email me at wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's wookiedrives@gmail.com. Be sure to give the video a like, drop a comment, share with all your friends, and please subscribe for more Wookie Drives like these. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.
Back in 56 pass, I wasn't prepared to translate that.
That's
that little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At?
See, that's what I said. Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard it.
Around
I'd never heard it
or
said.
about.
I'd always
That's
seen the
right.
mark. There it is. At amfeedback.com. I mean,
When
what
do you
is
say that,
internet
Allison?
anyway? What do you write to it like mail?
There's Allison. Can you explain what internet is?
See, that's what I said. What do you mean there's nothing under the hood? Katie said she thought this was a car.
Yeah.
And it's built using wind? Like from a windmill?
Or a fan, or a turbine, or a fan vine.
I mean, what is i3 anyway?
Allison, can you explain what i3 is?
The all-electric BMW i3, built in a wind-powered factory with the strength of carbon fiber and BMW performance.